The salvage station orbited a dead moon, its skeletal framework barely holding together after decades of neglect. Eowyn Hero had seen worse places in her 15 years as a freelance salvager, but something about this one made her grip her plasma cutter a little tighter. The distress beacon had been faint, nearly drowned out by cosmic radiation. Most captains would have ignored it. Eowyn wasn't most captains. She found the wreckage in Bay 7, a Calrix merchant vessel split open like rotted fruit. The species was known across 3 sectors for their strict hierarchical structure and their peculiar concept of property rights. To the Calrix, everything belonged to someone, even people. Especially people. The bodies floated in the vacuum, frozen mid-panic. Eowyn had seen enough death to recognize a catastrophic hull breach, quick, merciful in its way. She was about to mark the bay as cleared when she heard it, a sound that shouldn't exist in the void. A whimper. Her scanner showed a life sign, weak but steady, behind a collapsed bulkhead. Eowyn activated her suit's thrusters and maneuvered through the debris. What she found made her stop cold. A Calrix cub, no more than 3 cycles old by her estimation, huddled in an emergency pod that had failed to launch. Its gray fur was matted with frost, and its 6 eyes, usually bright with the species' characteristic intelligence, were dim with cold and fear. The pod's life support had maybe an hour left. Eowyn didn't hesitate. She cut through the pod's door and reached for the cub. It flinched, curling into a tighter ball, but didn't resist as she pulled it free. The creature was small enough to fit against her chest, trembling violently. Without a word, Eowyn unwrapped her thermal coat, the expensive one she'd bought on Kepler Station, the one that had cost her 3 months' worth of salvage fees, and bundled the cub inside. She sealed it against her suit's chest plate, where her body heat could reach it through the fabric. The cub's trembling slowed. Its multiple eyes focused on her face through the helmet's visor. Then it spoke. Its voice transmitted directly into her comm system through the translator embedded in every Calrix's neural tissue. "Can I belong to you now?" Eowyn's hand stilled on her thruster controls. The question hung in the dead air between them, heavy with implications she was only beginning to understand. Among the Calrix, belongingness wasn't a metaphor, it was law. It was identity. An orphaned cub asking to belong was asking for survival itself. "Kid, she started, then stopped. What could she say? That humans didn't own each other? That the very concept made her skin crawl? The cub wouldn't understand. Its entire species had built their civilization on a framework of ownership and obligation that humans had abandoned centuries ago. But refusing wasn't just a cultural misunderstanding. For this cub, it was a death sentence. Unclaimed Calrix were considered non-entities, stripped of rights and resources. No shelter, no food, no future. "Please," the cub whispered, its translator giving the word a desperate edge. "The shipmother is gone. The clanfather is gone. I have no one to belong to. I will be good. I will work. I will not be trouble." Eowyn's jaw clenched. She thought of the human colonies she'd visited, where every person was their own sovereign entity, where freedom meant the right to walk away, to choose to exist without permission. She thought of the wars her species had fought to establish that principle. The blood spilled to ensure that no human would ever again say those 5 terrible words. "Can I belong to you?" But this wasn't a human, and the universe didn't care about humanity's hard-won principles. She looked down at the small form pressed against her chest, wrapped in her coat, trusting her with a totality that no human child would ever show a stranger. The cub's breathing had steadied. Its eyes tracked her movements with something like hope. "What's your name?" Eowyn asked finally. "Designation Tertiary Keeper of Minor Inventories," the cub replied, the translator making it sound absurdly formal for such a small creature. "That's not a name. That's a job description." The cub's ear analogs flattened in confusion. "It is what I am. What I was made to become." Eowyn activated her thrusters, heading back toward her ship. "Not anymore. If you're going to be on my crew, you need a real name." "How about Keeper? Short, easy to remember." "I am to be crew?" The cub's voice pitched higher. "Not property. Nobody on my ship is property, kid. You work, you eat, you get a share of the profits. That's the deal." The cub was silent for a long moment. When it spoke again, its voice was small and wondering. "I do not understand. If I do not belong to you, then what am I?" Eowyn smiled, though the cub couldn't see it through her helmet. "You're free, Keeper. You belong to yourself. And that means you get to choose who you want to be. She felt the cub shift against her chest, burrowing deeper into the coat's warmth. I choose to stay with you, it said firmly. Not because I belong to you, because you gave me your coat when you did not have to. That's different, Eowyn agreed. Yes, Keeper said, and for the first time there was something like joy in its translated voice. That is very different indeed. As Eowyn's ship broke away from the salvage station, she pulled up the galactic database on Calric's dietary requirements, medical needs, and educational protocols. It was going to be complicated. The authorities would ask questions. The Calric's consortium would probably file a diplomatic complaint about human interference in their cultural practices. Let them. She looked down at the small bundle of gray fur sleeping peacefully against her chest, still wrapped in her coat. In saving one orphaned cub, she hadn't changed the universe. The Calrics would continue their traditions, and humans would continue to be baffled by them. But maybe, just maybe, one small voice added to the chorus of freedom was worth all the complications ahead. Welcome to the crew, Keeper, Eowyn whispered. Welcome home. Outside the viewport, the stars stretched endlessly in all directions, full of possibility and choice and second chances for those brave enough to reach for them. Even if they had 6 eyes and asked questions that broke your heart before putting it back together again. End.